You can't make a show about a baseball team and then make you not like most of the teammates for being shitty people.
Weird. It's almost like it didn't work, and this show only lasted for 2 months.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Hardball. Hardball went 9 episodes with only 1 season on Fox. Today we're talking about episode 1, which is called Pilot, originally airing September 4th, 1994. So to get things started, I'm Jake Gags. With me as always, the boys, most of the boys, and a girl, Gordo, Joe, and Sarah. Welcome to the show. What's going on, everybody?
Hello. Hello. A girl, I know. What? I'm invading the clubhouse.
Nearly 4 years a female voice has been heard on this show.
Well,
And we're glad to have you here.
Could be debated.
And then, Sarah, if you want to take any opportunities to self-promote, now would be great.
Yeah. You can hear my voice along with my buddy Dave, who's also been on the Cheers
Friend
episode
of the show.
here.
Cheers.
Friend of the show.
Cheers episode,
He's
yeah.
Cheers episode. So if you haven't heard that, go back and listen. Yes, we do IAP radio and a pickle radio. We do the less glamorous side of sports. So everything that is bad about sports, your favorite athlete going to jail, who got caught with drugs and guns, we are covering all of that for you. And
I'll make a point to leave a link in our description for the episode so all your stuff will be available.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Did you guys have an episode about the famous 1994 fight where the Pied Piper was beaten up by the Hardball? Because I feel like that's an epic topic for sure.
You mean Jim Brewer?
Yeah, when Goat Boy was beaten up by...
I couldn't believe that because I didn't notice it watching the episode. And then when I was like going through like the IMDb, I'm like, wait a minute.
You couldn't tell by that stupid face. He's like,
you do right away.
Yeah.
I also
right
like if you were to break that down into parts, Goat Boy was beaten up by the writer for Sabrina the Teenage Witch is how that actually plays out, which is fucking bananas. This is just the worst sequel to Major League. Wiggle your foot if you agree.
Yes, this is.
Yeah, I was surprised that this was a definite call and response to the success of the Major League movies.
It's just Major League. Hey, we need a Latino guy smoking a cigar. Hey, we need uniforms that look like the Indians. Like everything about it. Hey, instead of sleeping with the other players' wife, we'll sleep with the coach's daughter. Like it's so fucking Major League. It's insane.
It is not original idea, but you also have to remember this was on Fox. So Fox was one of those that at that time, their big show was Married with Children. So it's something that they wanted to keep the success that they were having off of that. And they were like, oh, Major League was raunchy. Major League provided this, that, and the other thing. So why not try to spin something off of it?
And this was a lead-in, I want to say, to Married with Children at the time as well.
This is part of the first Fox NFL Sunday, too. Because this was in 1994. Either one of you can answer, either Gordo or Sarah. What was prominent in 1994 with baseball?
The strike.
Wow. I didn't think you'd ever get that.
Because that was the only year that the Montreal Expos had to win the World Series.
There was the best chance they ever had of winning, it looked like.
Correct.
I take offense, by the way. I know I'm not the sports ball guy here, but I loved baseball in the 90s, and I was very much affected by the 1994 strike. I liked baseball so much at this time. I used to watch all the Braves games on TBS because it was more baseball to watch.
Well, the overall point was I did wrongfully assume Gordo would get it wrong, so I knew you would have known that.
Okay, I thought you were trying to throw some Joe doesn't know sports shade on me.
I am a baseball fan.
Well,
I worked at Fenway Park for 3 years.
That is true. You did work at Fenway.
I was a baseball fan until these new fucking rules, and now I do not give a shit. Pitch clock, boring, stop it, stealing bases, what's happening?
Well, actually, I have a love-hate relationship with the pitch clock. One, I like the fact that it moves the game along faster. However, on the flip side, you have more pitchers injured now and needing to get Tommy John. So that's the offset thing because they are on that time clock, literally, and they have to have more pitches faster.
Yeah, they're just throwing now.
Yeah.
Well, the game had gotten so slow. It was already a slow game. It was getting worse. So,
but baseball is the sit down, have a beer, enjoy 3 hours. It's relaxing sport.
I'll say this, and Joe, this is the last thing you're ever going to want to hear, but like in the newer era of life, the TikTok, YouTube short era of life where everything is quick and you can't even get like kids to pay attention to things that are more than a minute, they're seeing a decline in like ratings and stuff. So they're like, we need to speed things up. So, I mean, like, I get it,
but God is dead and we're alone.
Right. So anyways, as far as Hardball goes, were any of you guys even familiar with the show, let alone did you watch it when it came out in 94? And I said 9 episodes, but I think only 7 made it to air.
No and no.
No.
I knew of it because I knew when we did the news radio episode, it had come up in like the thing where Joe Rogan had come out to Hollywood to do this first.
And then want to mention, so IMDb has this at 6.7. Rotten Tomatoes doesn't even know the show exists. So, I mean, there you go with those scores. I'll say this, like, this was a time where, 1994, obviously unfortunate timing. The show was supposed to debut with, like, the World Series. That's when the show was made. It was like, that was what was supposed to happen. They were going to hold the show for that. You know, the strike happened, so baseball ends abruptly in 1994. So they were like, so Fox puts it with NFL Sunday, the first NFL Sunday, to have just some sort of a sports tie to it. I think unfortunate timing did not help the show, although I think there's a lot of other things we'll talk about that didn't help the show. And also, we talk about Major League, but not just Major League. If you look at the early 90s in general, the influx of baseball-related content that had been coming out was in droves. So, yeah. I mean, the fact that a baseball sitcom was on its way makes a lot of sense on like an executive standpoint. Like, this seems like a good show to put through.
Baseball for sure is the most movied sport of any sport. And especially like in our lifetimes, right? Because you have the Major League movies, you've got a League of Their Own, you have Field of Dreams, you have Bull Durham, right? Like there's just so much baseball.
Mm-hmm. Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah, the list goes, Little Big League. I think one of the things about baseball when it comes to baseball and media with like movies and TV is, and it's no disrespect to the sport, but I think it's the easiest sport to fake when you're like filming. You know, you can do individual shots. You can have the guy catch just a shot of him hitting. When you're doing like close-ups and you're doing like a hockey thing or a football thing, it's really tough to like emulate it in a way that looks realistic unless you really, really have to like schedule and have like, real practices and stuff like that. So this is a little bit easier to shoot around.
Hockey is tough because you have to show your face and you have to be able to skate.
And then I guess just before we get into it, when it comes to baseball content, baseball movies, shows, mostly movies, do you guys have a go-to?
I mean, it's Major League for me, which made this hard because it's such an ape on Major League.
I'll say I grew up, as I get older, I understand the flip, but I grew up a Major League 2 fan. I loved Major League 2 so much.
You were like, you know what, Wesley Snipes? Fuck you. And you know what, X? We don't want your song anymore either. We'll just go with the worst version of this where Charlie Sheen is a yuppie. What?
It was a great movie, though, and they introduced some fun characters. I'm not saying Back to the Minors. I'm not saying Major League 3 was a favorite.
Whoa, don't knock on Back to the Minors, though, because that, I think, is the first film appearance of Walton Goggins, which gives us, I mean, that is a huge into the world that we get.
Are you willing to make the controversial statement that our Major League 3, Back to the Minors, is better than Major League 2?
Yes, I am.
Wow.
That is, it's not even, I'm like shoot mad right now, but I'm not.
I love Randy Quaid more than I should. Okay, I'm a Christmas boy, and I am so excited that it is Cousin Anytime Soon. I don't know. I don't think part 2 is very good.
We have a fake Randy Quaid in this one.
We get the fake Randy Quaid. We get so many of the tropes. Yeah. The very first scene, they fire one of the head office from Major League. Like, they're not even trying to hide what they're doing. The coach or the GM from this show is the guy who is like the one who actually wants the team to succeed in Major League, who works with the boss. So I think this is just like a little step too far.
Agreed.
Oh, and real quick, S1E1pod.com is where you can go to find all the links to our social medias and everywhere to follow us. Hit us up, slide in the DMs, Tell us what you think of the show. Maybe one day you could be Sarah.
All this could be yours.
Only knew us through social media, and now here we are.
Here we are.
Join us on the TikTok Riz party.
Oh, yes, Gordo has done a lot of effort to catch up all the old clips from our other socials on the TikTok. So almost every video that you can find on our X and Instagram are now findable on TikTok, which was once a dead media for us. So go check that out as well. Listen, for us, you're not going to find this on Hulu or Netflix. Luckily, it is uploaded on YouTube. So if any of you guys want to watch this show, go on YouTube and you can watch it. And the version that's findable has the intro that was done by Fox before the show actually started, which is the way it works. Cause there's a clip that was made for it. So I feel like you almost have to start before the episode starts.
For historical context, I'm so glad this exists.
It's the Fox Super Sunday, and we have Terry Bradshaw and Howie Long, and they're the ones who are introducing the premiere of Hardball. But it's weird. It's they're half in, half out with is it real or not? So they're premiering the new show, but then they cut to the show as if it's a real live sports broadcast.
I was really confused because I wasn't sure if it was real or fake.
Oh, you thought this was a documentary?
No, I thought that the beginning clip, I didn't know if it was a commercial or not.
So the stuff with Howie Long and Terry Bradshaw was, real. It wasn't that wasn't actually part of the show. That was them doing the intro for the whole Sunday
lead-in
event.
Mm-hmm.
But they did coincide by adding that clip to kind of make it feel like it was a real sports thing.
But we knew back then Howie Long's back hurt so hard because he was so fucking hard up having to tie his shoes all the time. He's so much happier now with all these slip-in shoes they've invented that he keeps telling us all about.
I will say my dad has some Howie Long slip-on sketches, and he's a big fan.
Walking on sunshine.
Yeah.
They're no Crocs, though.
Oh, here we go.
I want to do you think there's a Howie Long giblet for your Crocs?
I'm sure. There's gibbets. First of all, giblets.
I don't think that's how it's pronounced.
Giblets are what's in a bird that you pull out. And you can get gibbets made of anything, Joe. Anything. I have S1E1 gibbets.
I hate that exists. I don't like being anywhere near that, but...
I have them. They're on my shoe.
Are you wearing your Crocs
that
right
one's
now?
bad.
You're a fucking psycho.
They're slip-ons. Someone 3D printed
There you go.
That's
custom
where we're
made.
at.
Color me surprised.
Yeah. For those of you just listening in on this audio podcast, Gordo just showed us his Crocs sandals.
Yeah. I want to be surprised, but I'm not at the same time. It's weird. It's
hard.
It's expected, and then it happens, and I don't know. I feel dirty.
He has, he needs to wear those when his fish flops are in the wash. So,
listen, the fish flops only come out when we're on vacation.
Yeah.
The real question, though, is has anybody here seen the Howie Long movie Firestorm, where he's a
no
forest fire firefighter?
I have not. No.
No.
It's fucking amazing, and everyone should find it. It's probably on Tubi or something. It is fun. I think Scott Glenn's in it as well, too. So there's some real actors in it. It's worth watching.
I'm sure it's there on Plex.
It's on one of those. Yeah, it's on Pluto. It's in between all of the Frank Thomas commercials.
So to go back to this, though, when they cut to clip, that's when you see a young Joe Rogan playing Frank Valente, and he's being interviewed by the on-field reporter, and they're talking to him about, hey, despite the fact that you make $6 million a year, you're on strike for more money. Do you ever think, gee, maybe I should forget about the money and go and play for the love of the game? And he goes, what are you, stupid?
Instantly, I wanted to throat punch everyone because we know that this came out during the time of the strike. And then we have to remember people were just blaming the baseball players oh, they all want more money. But it was also, they wanted to put a salary cap. So the players that were actually carrying, it was a lot more of the owners. You have these rich white guys who were just owning these teams and driving them into the ground. As we saw in Major League, prime example. I just want to collect my funds. I don't care about the team. We're going to sell it somewhere else. And that was infuriating because it wasn't just about the players. So the way that it felt to me as a viewer, seeing it for the first time, was oh, they're just trying to make it seem as though that the players are bad here and they're the ones that want more money, not what's going on the opposite side with the front offices.
And this is a commentary they keep throughout the entire episode.
Yeah.
If you watch, they mention how much money the players make multiple times in this episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody clearly had an axe to grind when they wrote this, and it was all about how much money. Like, I pay you X amount of bills, you're not worth any of it. Like, Jesus Christ, guys.
Well, if they suck.
Look, it doesn't matter. Even if you suck, like the league.
No,
Also, that is a major league joke too, right? When
I suck, I make $0 playing baseball.
Yeah, but Tom Berenger sucks, but he sucks as a baseball player professionally. So he makes the league minimum, which is like
So do I.
$100,000 a year. That's still better than you or me at baseball.
No, I mean, I'll give it to you. I don't know. Salary caps, I don't know. That's a different conversation.
Salary caps only support organizations that are a low market. There are some organizations that are low market that I can understand. But if you look at teams like the Detroit Tigers, they're a low market team, and look at the season that they had, the run that they had this season. So there's really no excuse. If you want to build your team, build your farm system. Your farm system's cheap. That's where it comes down to.
I do believe that there should be a floor, because I think that's been a problem with a lot of teams. Because you have a lot of owners who literally put $0 into their team, and it's like laughable how little they'll spend on the team.
Like the Pirates.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, the salary talk in baseball, obviously, I mean, from 94 to now, it's crazy how much it's changed in 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and yes, I think it's gotten a little insane how much people make to play sports in general, not just baseball, in all sports. And I'm a sports fan. I watch, all the major sports. But yes, it's gotten a little wild, but
my thing though is with the salary cap though, doesn't it make everything a little bit more competitive?
Not necessarily.
Because like look at football, right? Like you can have dog shit teams one year, couple of free agents, but bam, on the rise. So
sure,
that's
but
due to salary cap.
That's not because of a salary cap necessarily.
That's the rules of the draft, right?
Yeah, but then you're going to have people like Jerry Jones like throwing fuck money at people.
Yeah, but if you want to own a sports team like in baseball where there isn't,
you should
a cap,
be that rich. Yeah,
like if that's the market you're getting into, then you should be prepared for that's part of it. And then just the same with football. Luckily, everyone, it's no secret we're a Boston-based show. We were lucky enough to have a team that was on top for 20 years. That was with the salary cap. And there are teams that have historically been terrible for 20 years. It's still how you manage your team and things like that. It's not just as simple as the value of your individual players.
And that was paying somebody to be quarterback who was so dumb he doesn't even know what a roast is.
Every chance Joe gets to slide that in now. This is new.
I fucking hate Tom Brady so much. I hate fucking football. I don't give a shit about the Patriots. But Tom Brady fucking really rubbed me the wrong way when he was like, I didn't like when they were mean to me at the roast. Go fuck yourself.
But listen, we can talk about all this stuff forever and ever and ever. And, there's a lot of the show we got to talk about. So I'll say again, there's a lot of times that money is mentioned on this episode. And I do think, because there was a clip where Joe Rogan's talked about the show in the past, and he criticized that like the people who were the writers for the show were all really good. And to what he said, at least, take, what he says for what it's worth, that the network got heavily involved with the show. And there were a lot of times where there were rewrites and like what was once a really funny script. And then he's like, what's this? All of a sudden, this doesn't make any sense. So this particular thing sounds like the network was getting involved. Because I don't know why a bunch of just comedy writers would just shit on how much money athletes made nonstop over and over. But maybe the network, who just lost a ton of money losing rights to games, might be a little more sour and might want to throw that in.
If you look at who created this show and some of the episodes of The Simpsons they created, they would have shit on that stuff in a way better way if the network wasn't involved. Like, you don't write the barbershop quartet episode of The Simpsons and then write this without somebody hacking the shit, right?
Well, did Fox have the rights to the World Series at this point in time?
No, they didn't. It was NBC and ABC had the rights. And then ABC, I think, lost it, and NBC and Fox picked it up after one of them, the major networks, lost it, and they were rotating back and forth. And now Fox in I think 2001, maybe early 2000s, Fox has the full MLB rights now. Fox is a multimedia conglomerate who just wants to own it all. And kudos to them for putting a show like this out in 1994 and utilizing Fox Sports Desk there in Sunday Football to try to say, hey, we can make baseball happen here too. So kudos to them.
Terry Bradshaw, here's a banana. Say what you're saying. He was like, okay, sure, whatever you need.
The actual show starts, and we're in the clubhouse where we meet the owner of the team, Mitzi, and she's yelling at the team for being in last place. Mitzi's played by Rosemary, who you would know for being Sally on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Long stint on that show. Her main credit, she acted forever, past a few years back, but, very long, wonderful career.
Yeah, she was 70 in this and died at 94. Like, she worked fucking forever. Look at for her.
Joe, did you crush on her?
70 is a tiny bit out of my range. If this was Mary Tyler Moore time, then, well, we'd have a different conversation.
Again, like, as she's yelling at the team, like, the very next thing she says, listen, I pay you guys $1 million a year. More if you can actually play. And what do I get? Money's just coming up over and over in this episode. Already,
and we're like 2 seconds in.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's talking about how, one of them was even caught sleeping on national TV. And you cut to him, he's like, I had a big meal. And that's Mike Starr, who, again, has been in a lot of things, but to me will always be the guy from Dumb and Dumber.
Yep.
The one who they poison. Pills are good.
One of the greatest Office guest stars of the later era Office.
Yes. He's part of the mob.
And for me, the thing I always think of is in Summer of Sam, when he's having sex with Adrian Brody's mom, and Adrian Brody walks in and interrupts him, and he's like, I'm sorry! And he goes, this fucking kid, now I got blue balls! Like, when I see him, I think of that fucking immediately.
I get that on DVD somewhere. I gotta go try to dig that one out.
Dude, rewatch Summer of Sam. It's fucking great.
She's also accusing the team of bringing hookers into the clubhouse, but turns out that hooker is the public relations person that works for the team. She's actually Alexandra Wentworth is the person who plays her, Lee, on the show. She did like a couple seasons of In Living Color. She was in a bunch of stuff, but she's like a comedic actress.
Schloopy?
Yeah, on Seinfeld. We have two Seinfeld people. You're Schmoopy.
Schmoopy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Soup Nazi episode.
Yeah, we get Schmoopy and Banya in this episode.
I was going to say the GM in the show also is from Seinfeld.
And there's another. I don't know if you realize that there is another Seinfeld. It's not just two. There's three.
Oh.
Well, hold it till we get there, because I'm mad at myself.
I'm going to hold it in. I'm going to hold it in. Hold it in.
So now we have Lee, the public relations, talking to everybody and talking about how they need to make some upgrades to the team. One being that they need a more wholesome image and need to switch from their mascot Hardball, and demographics showing particularly with women that it's not favorable because of Hardball's aggressive manner. Also, the stitched mouth is giving children nightmares. So to help bring families back in, she's introducing the new mascot, the Pied Piper.
I call bullshit. I call bullshit all day, every day. Because women fans, they love aggression. You love baseball. It doesn't matter. The mascot doesn't matter. Like, oh yeah, Wally's adorable. That's great. But like, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. And baseballs have friggin' stitches in them. For crying out loud. His head is a baseball. That is why his mouth is stitches. I call BS.
It's weird to be mad at the baseball for having stitches.
Well, we have Mr. Met.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
And Mrs. Met and Mr. Red. They have baseball heads.
I was gonna say, like, mascots don't mean that much, but sometimes they do. Because like you look at like someone like a Gritty, right?
Yeah,
who
Gritty
like
is taken off.
Found a way to go viral independently, and it's probably more popular than anything else in hockey. He's like transcended hockey.
Well, to keep it baseball, the Philadelphia Philly,
the Phanatic,
the Phanatic, yeah, whatever his name is. I saw a TikTok clip that he hit someone in the face with a hot dog, and it gave a woman a black eye.
Okay.
Yeah, they were doing it from the shooting gun.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you go to the game, you're getting like the good one, right? But if you're like, I'm getting the Frenetic at my kid's birthday party, like you're probably gonna get somebody who's gonna do some shit.
The one who's like there to like open up the new local supermarket, is not like the trained one.
Yeah, he's got some priors.
Well, then he should be better with the gun.
Yeah.
Depends on the prior, I guess.
And as far as like calling bullshit, because I can't speak to what bring women into baseball games quite like Sarah would be able to, but I will say in the 90s, the wildest time maybe of the last 100 years, I don't think anyone was ever like, this mascot is too aggressive. In the 90s, they would have been like, we need to give this mascot tits.
Or steroids.
Yeah.
Come out with just fucking needles in his arm.
They just more aggression. That's what we needed. We had so much shit that we were exposed to that every other generation before us was like, what are these kids being exposed to? Yeah. We needed more aggression. We needed to get it out. We were hyper freaking children, ADHD all day. Look at us as adults. We're like, I can't focus. So it's something where like, yeah, we loved it. We ate it up. And here we are with our trauma today.
The team not happy with the idea of losing Hardball. You have Joe Rogan really putting on a acting masterclass. And he went, you can't replace Hardball with this dancing geek.
I think Joe Rogan was a very good actor in news radio, but holy shit, is he so bad at this.
He is so stiff.
I guess he looks convincing enough to be like a young baseball player, but yeah, I think he was just hired as a pretty face at the time.
I mean, he makes sense though, right? He's like a East Coast tough guy. I think he's like big into like karate and stuff at this point, right? He's like muscular and young, and you totally buy him as like a power hitter. But yeah, he definitely is. There's a reason he's like the comedy foil of this and not the main focus and most of the script.
You know who would have been better? Tony Danza.
He would have been way too old for this.
Not to be I don't know about a 94 as like the young, pretty hotshot player, but
the thing that annoyed me is every time somebody talked, it didn't matter who was speaking, where, what, when, is that laugh track throughout the entirety. It's the same laugh track. It was rough.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
It's tough when you know there's no jokes anyone would laugh at. You're like, oh, it's so obvious that it's just pumped in.
Mm-hmm.
So Mitzi, the owner, is trying to rile the team back down and kind of, get everyone to chill and letting everyone know that there's going to be some changes made soon, if they don't improve. And that's when the team manager walks up and he's like, yeah, that's for sure. And who do we get rid of? And then we cut to the news segment showing that earlier today, Pioneer owner Mitzi accepted with great regret the resignation of manager Chuck Hickey, and then announced the new manager, Ernest Happy Talbot. And so, I thought that it was like a projected joke, but the idea of the manager being unaware that he was about to be fired.
And that's Charles Cyphers, who's like one of the main characters in Major League. He's also, Ferg's not here for this episode, but he's in Halloween 1 and 2. He's the Laurie's friend's dad, who's like the sheriff of the town, who's like, Halloween, huh?
Oh, hold on. I'll be Ferg for a second. Neat. I assume that's what he would have said in that moment.
He's also in multiple Charles Bronson movies, which is why I love him so much.
We go to the intro of the show. The intro to the show, I don't have a lot of problem with. It's just a lot of like stock baseball footage and then shots of the cast from the show. But the music was like this very like generic. It was like, we need a sound alike for like a John Mellencamp song.
Yeah, this one's like a sound alike for John Mellencamp, and the one later is a sound alike for
Deep Purple.
Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's so clearly Smoke on the Water. Or you're like, Jesus, guys.
That one, I think,
wasn't it?
Was Smoke on the Water.
Yeah,
this one here was like
Smoke on the Water.
I think it was like the legal equivalent to being one note off to not have to pay for it. It's like
the
just
WCW
right.
version, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one it's playing and like I just kind of want to be like, ain't that America? But yeah, I thought the music was a little like the song's fine for what it is, but I think they needed something a little more upbeat and like to get you going for the show.
Like an organ?
Yeah, that's it.
I think what it needed was like more of like a brassy band with a lot of snare, like a dum bum ba dum bum, like a high school sportsy sort of thing to like keep kind of like Coach or maybe Major Dad.
No, they should have just did like an organ, like a baseball player.
Like Baby Elephant Walk?
Or they could have just had it as like Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
That on like a...
It would have been one of those like little rock remixes though, with just a guitar playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Like it'd be one of those like up-tempo versions.
I would have been okay with that.
It's like, we got Slish to do the solo. Like, oh good, we finally got Slish involved. Thanks, guys.
There's a lot of like, I don't know. I did feel like they gave all the characters enough time to breathe, like the ones that you needed to know. And like, there's like definitely smaller characters that, you don't get a lot of them, you might down the line. But for the amount of people in the episode, I didn't feel overwhelmed by it, which I guess is, if I'm going to say anything good about the show, because we've had that issue in the past.
Yeah.
So for the amount of people we see,
I know we concentrate on the first episode only, but like Dan Fleurich's daughter in this, who's like a major pivotal plot point.
Doesn't
one episode.
Yeah.
Not in it ever again. What are we doing?
She's traveling, Joe.
Yeah.
She's got a writing assignment she has to go to.
She's got to see more hotel rooms.
She's got to go see some more hotel rooms.
So next scene, we're back at the clubhouse. New manager's being introduced to everybody. This is where he's with the GM, which would be your second Seinfeld cast member. Well, not like anyone from Seinfeld other than your core group is in a lot of episodes. But
I will say Kenny Bania is a Seinfeld cast member. I will say he's in it enough to count as like...
Yeah, the outer circle from the main 4. He's definitely...
But he's still like under 10 episodes.
Which is crazy because he looms so big in that show. But yeah, just 7 episodes.
And he's pivotal in all of those episodes when you start looking at it.
Soup is not a meal.
Yeah, and if we recall, he is in the Soup Nazi episode when he's trying to cut the line, and Jerry's like, no, you can't cut, like, I won't get my soup. And he's like, oh, man.
Yeah, we have double soup with Banya.
Yeah, you know? Order the swordfish. Get the swordfish. I'll have the salmon.
The best, Jerry, the best.
As he's talking to the new manager, they're making small talk. He's like, so how long are you in the minors anyways? He's like, 23 years. He's like, oh my God. At that moment, Mitzi walks in, the owner, and Mitzi's got quite the crush on her new acquisition.
Captain Cragen's a handsome guy.
Am I to believe that he was hired just because of her attract? Do you think she had anything to do with his hiring?
Probably not.
Yeah, day-to-day operations doesn't seem to be like what she's interested in.
But the fact that he, as the GM, inquired in regards to how long he was in the minor leagues coaching makes you question that she was like, had a kind of a hand in assisting that, more or less.
Right, because he didn't know that. That's a good point.
Correct.
See, to me, though, I go, oh, you were a coach in the minor leagues for 23 years? That seems like great credentials. Like, I don't see that as like, oh, you poor man. I'm like, oh, wow, that seems like you probably know your baseball coaching pretty well.
Because there's different schools of thought. But yeah, I think in this case, it was meant to be derogatory when it was mentioned, like, that he's been stuck down there, as if he wasn't talented enough. But yeah, anyways, Mitzi instantly starts flirting with him. She, like, legit growls at him at some point.
Oh, yeah, she, like, roughs him.
When they're asking him about, like, how he's going to be able to, like, you know, handle things in the clubhouse and kind of get things back together. He's like, well, you know, there are a lot of temptations out there. And she's like, ooh, look at you trying to steer the conversation towards sex right away. Like, didn't take you very long, did it? And I don't know. I thought it was so funny that she was, like, almost forcing it, you know, the way she did. It was coming on to him. Like, I did find that pretty funny.
That's the theme throughout this entire show, is trying to force sex and force these sexual innuendos and all of these things. Because, again, this is a lead-in to Married with Children, so they think that this formula works, but not always.
He's no Ed O'Neill.
What's weird here too is like, so he's like, when he introduced himself, he's like, hey, I'm Happy so and so. Like, if my nickname was Happy and I introduced myself to somebody new, I'd be like, hi, I'm Joe. You don't introduce yourself by your weird nickname, do you? That seems weird.
I don't know. You guys introduce me as Gordo all the time.
It's always tricky. Like, I was going to mention that, but it depends on the circumstance, right? Like, for you or for Ferg, those are variations of your last names. So
True.
It's not like totally random. You know, it's not like we're like, hey, and this is our friend Slippy. You know, like, and then there's like no reason behind it.
It's very English. Everyone's like Audie and Nobby. And it's like just all like whatever their like last name was.
But baseball, they have those weird nicknames like Happy and like Curly and...
Yeah, like sometimes, names like that follow you in a way where it becomes your name. So, like, I don't think it's that crazy sometimes to introduce yourself that way.
I feel the way that they should have done it is they could have had him introduce himself with his real name, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, Happy, yeah, or whatnot. Like, oh, you coached X team. Like, I saw you guys won XYZ. You know, like, there was a way to segue it to not only give his resume as to what kind of coach he was, but also give his nickname.
I wouldn't say he's that happy, right? Like, you make that joke immediately, right?
You have the moment where, like, the one of the players goes, why do they call you Happy? And it's like in a moment where he's obviously like very stone-faced, you know what I mean? You play on the irony of the nickname, because when he first goes to get the team's attention, when the GM can't do it, grabs a baseball bat and just goes ham on a trash can that's only used for hardcore matches and like in wrestling.
It's an outdoor trash can inside. Yeah,
it's not an actual trash can you would ever use for trash. It really only exists to like put over Mick Foley's head.
That would be a brown Rubbermaid in real life.
Yes. Yeah, it folded up so quick. Even after the first hit, I was like, yeah.
That's like a trash can that, because of my wrestling brain, is acceptable as a trash can. But I feel like if I didn't grow up watching wrestling, I would be like, what the fuck's he hitting? Like, I wouldn't even identify that as a trash can. This is the moment where now we have Happy meeting a lot of the players kind of one at a time. Through Happy meeting everyone, we're meeting everybody. So we're getting a lot of the different teammates. And I don't want to like dig too much into a lot of them because most of them we'll hardly see throughout the episode. You're getting a lot of kids who like, you have like the dumb one who is like, he kind of reminded me of the catcher in Major League 2, the one who needed to remember like Playboys to focus.
God, dude, Major League 2 is so fucking bad.
Whoa, dude, again, fucking stop. Anyways, it's him. We meet Lightning Nixon, who had the chain around his neck. He's like, does anyone actually call you Lightning? And it was more of, something that his wife wants to help him get over to get endorsement deals.
This dude's like, thanks for having me, bye. We don't see this dude fucking at all again. This is so unnecessary.
That's why it's like, it's like there's a couple funny gags here, but it's like it's not worth like getting too into everybody because you just don't see enough of them. Like, and I'm sure they'll pop up sporadically through the long 7 episodes that got aired.
The full 2 months.
But yeah, then we get to the Mike, who is the one I mentioned from before, who you would know from like Dumb and Dumber. And he was like an all-star catcher, but he's definitely far past his prime at this point.
Now, is he gay and the joke is that he's closeted but not gay? Or is he so anti-gay that he makes jokes about... Like, I don't understand what his character is supposed to be.
He went like 3 times with like a very, I'm gay type of...
Yes.
I don't even say joke because I don't know if he's supposed to be gay or not.
And it came across so believable because he's very straight-faced and he's constantly... It's repetitive in all of his conversations. He makes some kind of comment about something. So, the only thing that made me pause was he was like, oh, my family or my wife and kids. And I was like, she's a beard. Okay, I get it now. So I just have that feeling because we were still in the 90s. So it was like kind of okay, but still not. We had the AIDS epidemic and all this other stuff going on in the world. So you couldn't really like flaunt it on TV. So they're trying to make it a joke more, but serious at the same time. I don't know. I'm still out. I thought if I talked it through, it makes sense to me, but nothing doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I tried to do this earlier too. I was like, I don't get, maybe they're doing this. I don't know. But like, we're still in gay panic mode in the world. So like, it's kind of lost. Yeah, it's weird. The idea of showering with anybody at this point, too, where it's like a shower should just be 20 minutes with like music or like your phone playing a podcast or something. Like the idea of anything interrupting that time, it's like, I don't want to shower with anybody.
Yeah, right now, the only person I shower with is John Goblicon.
Goblicon?
You would probably love it.
Oh, I do know who. Okay, the guy that dresses up like the goblin. Okay.
No, he is a goblin. He doesn't dress like a goblin. He is a goblin. He's the singer of Necro Goblicon. But anyways, we'll talk about that later on. When Happy meets Mike, he's, gets right on him. He's like, oh, I was really hoping that it was the TV cameras adding the extra pounds, but I can see you are indeed as fat as a cow. It tells him from now on 200 sit-ups.
200 sit-ups is terrible. A terrible thought. Even 5 is a struggle. What are we doing here?
Now, I say this as a big man myself. Like, the thought of doing 200 sit-ups is...
A day.
A day,
That's an impossible amount of sit-ups to do in one day. Also... Like, if your whole thing is like economy of weight, like that's not going to make you lose weight. That's just going to make you have muscles in your belly. I mean, like if he's like run laps for an hour, you'd be like, okay, I understand where his math is coming from at least.
We get another mention of how much money all the baseball players make right around here when Happy's yelling at everybody. He doesn't care what they do off the field. It's more about how they play. He doesn't care about how much money they make, how many millions of dollars a year they make. And you get the quick cut to Frank holding up 6 fingers to let everyone know that he makes $6 million. 1994. What are some of our top contracts looking like?
I guess Randy Johnson would have been.
Griffey.
I'm looking at, okay, yep. If I'm going just by Google's AI, first name that pops up, we got Kirby Puckett making a little over $5 million.
Wow, that's a name we haven't heard.
R.I.P.
Yeah, so it looks like a lot of the top players, Rafael Palmeiro's making like $5 million, Cal Ripken's making like $5 million. So yeah, to have Frank Valente at that $6 million mark does mean he's like a top player basically at this time.
I mean, the one time we see him playing baseball, he immediately just first pitch, it's a home run. So
right. So it's kind of crazy to think. So if you're star top athletes in the league are making about $6 million in 94, and you said the inflation is around what from 94 to now?
Double.
Pretty much double.
Wow.
So now in 2024, are your top players making $12 million a year? No. They're making like $50 million a year, which is crazy how much that changed with inflation.
I think for the contracts, the only people that really suffer the most are the fans, because ticket prices increase, concessions increase, merch increases, because they have to make this money some way to, pay these players. And, sure as shit as the CEO, I'm not going to cut my salary because I need a yacht with 18-year-old girls on it. So that's why the fandom has changed, and especially with it's just expensive.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to talk about salary caps and things of that nature, but when the overall cost of like every player's contract has gone up so high, it's like it's not so much that you want to cap, but you just wish everything would come back down. It's just like these contracts are just going to get higher and higher and higher and higher, and that's where it becomes problematic. Listen, I love fitted hats, right? I couldn't even tell you how many I own.
69.
Sure. But like legitimately, I mean, they used to be 20 something bucks. Now I went to the store the other day and almost grabbed a hat. It was in my hand, and it was I found like a black and white Expos hat. I'm like, oh, cool. $50, like $50 for a hat. Like this is insane. Hat, like it's like
for a dead team. Like who even owns the rights to that anymore? Like do the Nationals get a cut of that? I don't even fucking know. I wish the Expos are still a team.
They might be coming back with the way that things are happening in Tampa. So keep your fingers crossed.
I hope so. I would love to see the Expos be a team again. I miss the shitty teams that barely ever won and were like just underdog fun teams.
Same.
That's kind of Tampa. That's like...
Well, Tampa's just fallen apart because they can't handle the weather.
Yeah, Tampa's not going to be a place that exists as far as like terra firma in 30 years. So like it's hard to keep a baseball fucking field there.
Sounds like karma. Sorry, my last trip to Tampa didn't go so well. But anyways,
we won't delve into Jay's arrest record.
That conversation ends. Got any questions? One of the players, can we call you Papa? And this is Logan, who we'll see a lot of throughout the episode. Happy kind of really digs into him, basically telling him like, hey, question, what's your record? He's like 1-5. He's like, now tell me, how does a baseball player with a smart mouth like you, who's only 1-5, still have a job in the majors?
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can be like the smart ass player when you're too good to get fired. But yeah, when you're at that point, when you should just be like, hey, just happy to be here.
Like 20% win record. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the sarcasm has to like, go down a tad. This whole conversation kind of ends with Happy noticing that Frank is kind of glued to the television, and he's asking him like, hey, what's so interesting on the TV? And he's like, I think I just won the lottery. And you hear them reading all the numbers. And, sure enough, Frank, the highest paid person on the team at $6 million a year, just won himself another bonus $3 million hitting the lottery.
I get that this is the whole, like, when Dan Florrick's like, you all act like you've got a golden horseshoe up your butts or whatever, and then he wins the lottery. Like, that's the joke of this. But, like, did we need this plot line where he wins the lottery too? This feels so unnecessary.
Well, I think a lot of that plot line is for Frank's character and his detachment with, like, reality and being, like, where society sees him and stuff like that, which is, why they give it to him.
See, I like these wild kind of offshoots. Because, like, it's a baseball team. How many people are on a baseball team? You have a well of, 25 different storylines that can go on at the same time. So I didn't mind it.
I would just think that something like a player hitting the lottery, that's more of a whole episode.
Right.
Maybe a player who, even if it was him, like, and I would have made it stupid money to the point where they, like, even question if they're still going to play anymore. Like, I just think the idea of someone winning like an insane amount of money could be like a whole 20-something minute episode.
I think if they had given it to, it's just basically them. Why I didn't like this aspect of it is because they're just showing the richest player on the team getting richer. And that leaves a sour taste in everyone's mouth when the rich just keep getting richer. So if they ended up putting it with some, I mean, you have this storyline that goes with it, yes, but like it's something that if they gave it to a different player, I think that it wouldn't have been as like awfully, like the way it was received by his fans and the fans of the team, it wouldn't have been received that way if, you know, Fatty Mike over here freaking won the lottery.
But at least it was acknowledged. Like, the whole thing was we're acknowledging that this is a rich get richer and that he doesn't look good for how he's accepting the money. Because the next scene is, you know, later on outside and it's during like batting practice and you have like a whole staff of news people hovering around him, asking him like, oh, what are you going to do with the money? And he's like, oh, I thought I was going to buy a vacation home, but, you know, I already have 3 homes. So like, I don't need another one. So maybe I'll do something like buy a Lamborghini. So like we're touching on the fact that he doesn't get it. And because the plot line is about the fact that he doesn't get it, I think is fine because it's supposed to be why this guy? Why is he getting the money?
I can't imagine having 3 homes. I don't like 3 places enough that I want to spend that much time there.
Imagine cleaning that. Woof.
No, you don't.
Keeping the fridge stocked, like making sure it's all up to date, bills are paid, taxes are paid. That seems too much work.
But even at that point, if you have that kind of money, you could just go on like Airbnb and filter by price, go the highway, which is, you know, something I would always love to do.
Then you won't, but you see, you won't retain your money.
But also, if you go to Airbnb as a poor person, they might be spying on you. If you go to Airbnb as a rich person, they're definitely spying on you. And then you have to deal with all the fallout from that.
Pictures. Everything's on the internet.
Bill Belichick doing his walk of shame in Winthrop, Mass. Shout out.
Woo woo. That man bod.
Oh.
I mean, hey. Good for him to go around shirtless.
It's a new perspective for the show. We're not used to a female voice, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Usually it's just me making an off-color joke, so.
It's not an off-color joke. It's just usually Bill Belichick's body's perceived differently amongst the panel we have. Yeah. So.
It is it's a, I love potatoes. It's a sack of potatoes. There you go.
That's fair.
Well, anyways, moving from there, we see a fan heckling in the stand here. This does feel very, very Major League, specifically this scene.
I will say this, though, as much as Randy Quaid is a spirit animal of mine, Randy Quaid's lines in Major League 2 are worse than the lines of this actor here. So at least they class it up a bit. Wild Thing, You Make My Butt Stink is maybe the worst line ever said in a major motion picture.
But
it
it's
is
hilarious.
So embarrassing.
That's the thing.
I hate it so fucking much. I see somebody I love like Randy Quaid say that, and I'm like, Randy, you could have said anything you wanted, and you said this. Why, sir? Why?
One of the best parts of all of Major League 2 is like when Rick Vaughn becomes Wild Thing again. And you just have him going, he's back! He's like, it's, Randy Quaid, interesting human being. But yeah, you have the heckler out here yelling over at Logan. Logan and Mike walk by because the heckler's saying that, you know, you're washed up, you're has-been, you bum. While Logan walks by him with Mike, they notice another, like a younger pitcher throwing. He's like, oh, kid throws hard, huh? He's like, you think he throws harder than me? No, not underhand. He always takes like the dad joke approach. He's like that kid because he's older than everyone else on the team.
I feel like this is a better time too, where you could play baseball and be old.
Yes.
And does he just come off as a lot older as like, say, a Logan? Because Logan's also a guy who's supposedly in the league for a long time. But Mike Starr looks significantly older than everyone else on the team.
I mean, he's older. He plays a cop, I think, in Cruising, and that's like 81. So, I mean, you've got 15 years at this point. So it's probably like at the end age of when you'd be playing baseball.
So Logan's asking, like, you know, these questions because he knows like he's towards the end of his career and that the manager hates him. He's like, he's going to release me. I know it. And then that's when you get Mike going, oh, I'd love to be released. Stay at home with my family. No more squatting behind the plate. Getting my fingers broken. And he's like, well, why don't you just quit? He goes, give up showering with other men? Not bloody likely. What? Like, we've already been alluding to this. This is the first time we hear something like that from him. And I'm like, wait, what? All right.
Yeah, I was confused.
Yeah.
Anglophile expression's a little weird too.
First time he does it, though, I just take it as like, oh, all right, interesting way to go with that joke. But then, like, when it does keep happening, you go, wait, so is he, like, was it a joke?
It's the delivery for me the way that he delivers it, it's like, it's too serious. Like in the same like in the same phrasing, like of me have like my wife and kids, and then the next sentence is give up showering with men. He just makes it so serious.
In this moment, I thought it was a joke because when you look at a guy like him, and after he says like, I wish I got cut, your natural reaction is the same as what Logan said to him. Like, why don't you just quit? You know, if you've made money and you don't want to play anymore, and you're like, why not just quit? So like, I felt like they needed a joke to get him out of that situation, because all logic says if you don't want to play anymore, just don't.
But there is also mentality of like, you're never going to quit your job. But if you got fired, you'd have like those 5 days where you're like, I'm going to do whatever I want before panic set in. Right. But you'd never do it to yourself.
Well, that's because I make what I make. If I was a professional athlete at the end of my long career, I'd probably, or at least should, have enough money aside where that's not a concern of mine anymore.
I was going to say, that's not always the case.
A long career as an athlete in the 80s, though, into the early 90s is not the same amount of money you'd get now.
There's still pensions and such as well. I mean, if he goes and says like, hey, I'm going to retire this year, it would be a different result than if he just like, I quit, I'm done, I'm over. Where, you know, endorsement deals post-career, he wouldn't have any of those or any, you know, such like that.
Frank Thomas is doing pretty good for himself.
Yeah, but he's selling testosterone powder or whatever.
He's selling snake oil that makes you have to take snake oil for the rest of your life. Frank Thomas is also, his heart's going to explode in 3 weeks, so he doesn't have to worry about the problems it's going to cause in the long run.
Barry Bonds doesn't sell anything now, does he? Haven't heard from him.
As you mentioned it, Barry Bonds has been like pretty quiet since like his playing days have been over. You don't really see him anymore.
Yeah, because the only time you hear any rumblings and conversation about him is when it's Hall of Fame,
like Hall of Fame
voting
season.
Oh yeah,
that's the only time, and everyone gets into this debate again. Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, like we get it, but his neck is the size of my thigh, so like, why are we having this conversation over and over again? Like,
you think now he's like off the sauce and he's like deflated back into mustache Barry Bonds, and like he doesn't want people to see him?
His head looks like, I don't know. There's so many things I could say, like uncircumcised peen or a thumb. It could be a whole lot of things. His whole head to his neck. And then he just looks like.
I don't want to get into this giant conversation because we have so much more episode to talk about. And maybe it's because I'm very openly pro Canseco as like one of my heroes. There's a poster. If I was to like move my right there, Red Sox Canseco. Behind me, guys like Bonds, I think you 1,000,000% need to put in the Hall of Fame. I think like without a shadow of a doubt.
I'm okay with steroid Hall of Fame. They made the game.
They brought it back.
Yeah, they made the game a thing again. Like the whole run wars of our youth were huge. Baseball was gonna fucking die if it wasn't for that. The most
simply put I can do with this, we could make a 5-hour show talking about this. And since we're TV based, this isn't the platform. But at the end of the day, and what's often forgotten is people look at all the like the big bats, like the Maguires and the Barry Bonds and the Palmeiros and all these dudes smashing home runs. What they're not talking about as much, and not that it isn't out there, but all the pitchers were doing the same thing too. So all those guys who got a little bit more power behind their swing, right across from them on the plate was a pitcher who was throwing another 5 miles an hour faster than he should have. So it's like, in my opinion, if they're all doing it for the most part, then we're back to level playing field. So it is what it is. It was that era of the sport, and you just got to move on from it. Before that, they were all doing speed. So, you know, it is what it is.
Look at the guy behind me, man. Ripping butts in the dugout. Gotta love me some Keith Hernandez.
Yeah, just different times.
And what a mustache.
My thing is, people should do those types of drugs. If you're going to be professional and entertain me. Fucking come out like the fucking Hulk and just fucking smash home runs.
Well, again, though, like wrestling, it's fine as long as they're not saying, like, take your vitamins. Like, yeah, but that's the problem, right? If you're just like, look, I look like this because obviously I'm on fucking drugs. Like, that's different.
There's a lot of bad things that go along with anabolic steroids.
Of course, but they're doing it to themselves.
HGH isn't quite as bad. So, hey, maybe that's not the worst thing. But, you know, rules are rules. But yeah, since Barry Bonds was mentioned, I think he deserves, even I've said this for years, the way I've always joked it off, just put mustache Bonds in. cut out the steroids years, and he's still a Hall of Famer.
He's still a Hall of Famer based
Yeah.
off of his stats. 100%.
Put him in. Put Clemens in. For the
No,
love of fucking God. Now at this point, I'll be pissed off if you put Pete Rose in because he should have went in before he fucking died.
no.
Listen,
But-
if they didn't put in Shoeless Joe Jackson yet, and he's been dead for how long, and it was a quote-unquote lifetime ban, I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Pete Rose isn't getting in. And Clemens has some other skeletons in his closet that are keeping him out.
Clemens?
It's
Yeah.
not the steroids.
I despise Roger Clemens.
He's one of my all-time favorite players.
Great player, bad man.
Bad human being.
Yeah.
100%. Like, yeah.
I mean, if we want to open up the list of Hall of Famers, but again, this is a much longer conversation for another day.
But he's not in the hall, so we can
But
protest
look
it
at the
not
ones who got
having
in.
him.
You look at a lot of the ones who got in. Anyways,
It's rigged. It's all rigged. The system's fucking rigged.
yeah. So while Mike and Logan are talking, Logan notices this woman walk down and sitting in a seat. And this is all during like batting practice. And it's just like this beautiful young brunette girl. It's played by Nancy Valen. She was in Baywatch. She did a few episodes of Silk Stockings.
Ooh.
That peaked. I saw that and I was like, oh, Silk Stockings. I love when you pop up Silk Stockings.
She did an episode of Saved by the Bell
Saved by
where
the
she
Bell.
was a
She was
nurse
the
who like
nurse.
that episode is like burned in my brain.
Yes.
Well, every episode of that show is burned in my brain. But yeah, when I looked her up, I was like being completely transparent. I'm like, oh my God. Like she walked down. I was like, this girl is obviously like objectively beautiful. So I was like, she must have had a career. Cause she's also like charming and like acts well in the show. So you're like, she's got enough tools that she should have had a pretty good career. She did.
She walked down, and I thought that she was going to have that little headache where she starts like hitting the bat. And it's interesting because in that Saved by the Bell episode, I think that her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend or whatever was an athlete. So it's kind of interesting.
I'm gonna rewatch that one. But yeah, she was the nurse who like had Zach cornered.
It's a weird episode.
Yeah, because he was gonna break up with Kelly because he was in love with the nurse, and the nurse loved him. Yeah,
With an adult, that's not going to happen, man.
some places it does.
That's true. Fair enough.
Imagine Tiffany Amber Thiessen's your backup plan.
Right? What are you
Yeah.
doing? What?
She's actually like back like in the public eye more and more lately. She does a lot of like social media stuff and had some shows.
Lots
And
of cooking stuff. I'm like, really? You know
she
how to
she had
read?
the is it still around? She has the MTV came out with a cooking version of Ridiculousness that she hosts called Deliciousness.
MTV still around?
Yeah,
Yes.
like an MTV2 exclusive, I believe. But anyways, yeah, this girl walks down. Logan goes, "Ooh, pretty smile," and Mike's like, "Thanks. I thought I needed dental work." He walks over and introduces himself. She's reading a book, a fan's notes, and Mike's like, "What's it about? A baseball fan?" Like they write this character so stupid.
I also feel like we didn't need to know what book she was reading. They could have been like, oh, she's reading a book. She's too smart for you. Like, we didn't have to have the secondary joke of fan.
Right. Well, you're playing into Mike being stupid, which I understand, which to me is annoying. But I think the purpose of it was to give her the connection with Logan, who did know what that book was and was able to identify it.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that was actually smart.
I mean, I guess it makes you have some...
Instant connection.
I do feel like, though, when they end up in bed together, the jump cut in a minute is just, like, unearned.
It's not. He was talking to her about literature. Something we don't know on this podcast, but
Reading's hard.
That's why we watch TV.
The TV podcast were like, well, you know, Dickensian says.
This is the part of the game where we finally get to meet the Pied Pioneer, which, as we mentioned, Jim Brewer. And I'm like, what? Like, when was his SNL run? So this has to be pre-SNL.
Right before it. This is right before it, yeah.
And this
I
is
like
probably
this.
right around the time he did the failed Clerks pilot.
No, that's later, because Clerks is 94, so I thought
Clerks is 94. That's right.
I feel like it has to be a couple years later, right? Because it would have gone into, like,
Yeah.
Miramax would have bought it. It would have gotten, like, a wider
Right.
release. Thanks, Harvey Weinstein, for buying Clerks.
Anyways, the Pied Pioneer comes out, and he's basically just dressed up like Davy Crockett and, like, just dancing around like an idiot. And the fans are not into it. So everyone's just kind of like, what the hell is this? And everyone's chanting for Hardball. And you get like the obvious clip of the PR girl like looking down shamefully because obviously this isn't working.
And two Simpsons writers, this is clearly Capital City Goofball versus Homer being the new mascot, right? Like we're really riffing on the Simpsons here.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I really wish that there was trash thrown at him though, so I was kind of disappointed.
There was.
Like more, like a bottle.
Oh, it wasn't in the budget.
Or a hard pretzel that knocks him out. We can call them Whitey Whackers.
Back to Mike and Logan. They're watching the game from the bullpen area. And we know that Frank's up at bat. First pitch to him, home run. And then you get Mike going, I love that guy. And then he turns to the guy next to him, not in the way you're thinking. I want to have sex with him.
Why?
Why is this? I can't even.
Also, what are these seats? Why are there like these two?
They're in the dugout.
It's the bullpen area.
Yeah, they're in the bullpen area, but like it was weird the way it was shown. It was like, yeah, where are these elevated seats? It was I don't know enough. Like that might exist at some parks, but yeah, to me, I was like, what the hell are they sitting? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we talked about like how Mike's playing like two characters at once. I do think like some of these, like that joke I thought was pretty funny. But like when you have him playing the is he gay, is he not gay character and also the too dumb to function guy, like it was like you can't double duty that. You have to pick which one he's going to be. When you have him make comments like that where like the jokes are very sharp and then other times like what's that book about? Baseball fans? Like that's just
he's
it's not
too
the same
dumb
character.
to function. Yeah.
So now during this, Logan hops over the rail and walks into the stands and sits like in the row right in front of where Jennifer's sitting and talking to this kid. And he's telling the kid, like, hey, he slides him a baseball. He's like, hand this back to me and ask me to sign it for you. And the kid's like, who are you? He's like, just come on, just do it. He's like, I've got a game to watch. He's like,
That pisses me off right there. Sorry. I'm sorry. Because he's a primetime pitcher allegedly on this team.
Yeah.
Like he's seasoned. He's a veteran, more or less. The fact that the kid had no idea who he was. What?
any kid is just so excited. Like at that age,
you're not that jaded yet.
Anybody, you get an autograph from anybody. Like at that age, like if the fucking Bat Boy signed something, I wouldn't have realized he wasn't on the team. I would have just been like elated.
Like, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That angered the shit out of me. I'm sorry.
I do like that when while he's sitting there, he like leans up to Jennifer and he's asking her like, hey, you want to see me after the game? And the kid's going, my parents won't let me. It's like,
that was one of the low-key funniest lines in the entire movie, where like the kid is cognizant of it, like he's been asked before. Like, who else is on this team?
Right.
good for you, kid. Good.
It is the 90s. It was before Chris Hansen would show up.
Who is this girl that pops up from the bullpen and starts yelling at him? And she looks like a kid, so I thought she was just like a junior like staff member, but she yells at him like, come on now. Like, get back.
Yeah, she must be a pitching coach of some sort, right?
She looks so young.
They didn't hire women back then. What are you talking about?
I was going to say, also, yeah, it's like weird casting because like that wouldn't have happened
That
then.
made no sense.
No more DEI picks on this baseball team. Guys, 2024 is fucking bananas.
Yes.
We cut to later in the night, and now we see that Logan and Jennifer did go out together to the bar. Wasn't the bar called the Bullpen too?
The
like
Bullpen.
coincidentally? Yeah.
The Bullpen Lounge, which I did some digging to see if there was a Bullpen Lounge anywhere, because I figured there
I'd
had
be
to
shocked
be.
if there wasn't.
There's only one, and it is associated with the Nationals. But it's not really a bar. It's an outdoor tented area. And some of the reviews, when I find a place like this, the first thing I do is go to the 1-star reviews immediately. Some of them are so fun, where it's like, one was like, they only have porta potties and a tent. This isn't a real bar. And then one is like, the staff thinks they're funny if you use the porta potty. Do not recommend. I want that whole story, sir. Don't leave just that in the review. What's going on there? One person wrote, they said it was dog friendly, and then it wasn't. I guess they just want to inconvenience people. Like, what are you doing? You went to the internet for that and wrote a review? Holy shit. So, yeah, if we're ever in Washington, D.C., I guess avoid the Bullpen Lounge.
I can understand if you're going out with your dog and you're Googling ahead of time places
sure.
you can go with the dog, and then you find out, no, this isn't actually dog friendly.
Listen, it's happened, and it sucks. Because what are you going to... Listen, out in California, I shit on California all the time. They allow dogs in restaurants. No reason why Puritan, Massachusetts cannot do the same.
I think you just said the word Puritan, and that explains everything about it.
They don't do it in Maine either.
I don't know. I see dogs everywhere, man. Do people walk around with guns on their hips up here? Like, you should
But
let your dog
guns
if you
are
want.
better than dogs, apparently, and when you're attacked by moose.
I mean, I'd rather have a gun than a dog if a moose was attacking me. I guess it's fair.
Devil's advocate, just asking, but like I'm a dog owner, but
Same.
what about like allergies and stuff? Like I can
I
understand
don't give
that
a shit.
is like for indoor. Yeah, you don't because
You
you're
You
not
don't,
allergic
but
to
if someone's
dogs.
allergic to dogs and they're paying
Yeah.
for a dinner,
Some people have a freaking out of control fear of dogs. Like, I have been bit by a dog as a child or, Cujo, whatever. Like, they are deathly afraid. So if you have someone in your establishment that is like that and then has an anxiety attack, a panic attack, passes out, now you have bigger issues.
yeah, there's legal
What happens if
ramifications.
somebody is afraid of a burger?
What you could have went with was the classic Maury clip of the girl
Yeah.
who is deathly afraid of olives. Have you ever
Yeah.
seen that one?
Yes.
It's one
I
of the
have.
funniest internet clips. And like, I'm someone who like, I don't have a fear of, but I have this is no offense to your show, disdain for pickles. So like, I don't like pickles at all, but like, I don't have a fear of them. If you held a jar near me, I just go, But like this girl sobbing over the thought of olives because she thinks they look like eyeballs. And then it's like, bring out the olives. It's one of the funniest things on the internet.
That's why therapy
is.
exists, though. You got to just work through that shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, people walk down the street with their dogs all the time. Like,
I've been bit by a dog as an adult, and it was not a fun 4th of July for me. And I still love dogs, but if I see a really big dog and I don't know the owner, I'm a little more reticent than I used to be. But like, I'm not against dogs, but like, I also don't want one next to me while I'm eating because dogs are a pain in the ass when you're eating. That's just in general.
In my house, I have 3. I will do my damnedest to not eat anywhere near them because it's crazy. But then if I'm not eating near them, then it sounds like somebody's getting murdered in the house because they're all screeching and screaming. So you don't want that in a public establishment. That's what it comes down to.
Back to the bullpen lounge. We see the two like on like this, date, and they're talking. We're learning about her. We learn she's a traveling writer, and she flies from city to city to grade the hotels. And he's like, no kidding. I live in a hotel, and I'd love for you to come back and see my room. Maybe grade it. I guess if ever there's an easy in to make a line like that, I guess that's it. And we get a cutaway quick too, because we see some of the other guys from the team that are all hanging out at the lounge as well, and they're all kind of nervous about the prospects of Happy releasing people from the team. And you have the one guy, he threw away my cigar. A man who would do that is capable of anything. I'm like,
The Serrano analog, yeah. I am sad that we didn't get a Jobu reference.
You get by those Jobus or whatever. I wanted Jabu, yeah, Jabu, right?
Jobu.
Jabu, Jobu,
Jobu.
Jobu.
Yeah, I actually got one for my brother for his birthday a couple years ago.
Oh, nice. And then in 2, he finds Buddha.
It was so fucking bad.
And eventually unites the two.
it's been so long since I've seen either of them.
Jabu meet Buddha.
I feel like I watch the first one like every April when baseball starts as like a yearly tradition, but I haven't watched the second one in probably 15 years because last time I tried to watch it, I just couldn't get through it.
So good. But anyways,
So good.
yeah, you have one of the
Like
players
baseball.
after
Baseball joke, right?
he talks. I get it. After he says that, he's capable of anything, one of the players, I believe it was Lightning, was like, I can't go back to Idaho. He's like, or I to Wichita, which got a big laugh track laugh.
Why? Why
Right.
was Kansas funnier than Idaho? What is?
Because he was not from Wichita.
So the joke is that it's funny that he's from Wichita?
The idea is the shock value that a man that is foreign, you just think came straight from his other country and didn't live in another city. Like it's impossible for him to have lived in another city before he was drafted to this baseball team.
Yeah, that's the joke. It's offhanded racism.
Or I to San Francisco with my catcher friend who's also gay. It's like, okay, everybody, we're playing along.
So we're back to the date. She's saying, so you've been in the league for about 12 years, haven't you? It's like, yeah. And she's asking if he ever gets tired of it. And he's talking about how much he enjoys his life and, how it's sad because it's going to come to an end soon. And she's like, no, it's like, not necessarily true. And, it's going over all these other pitchers who like had like resurgence in their careers later on. Talks about Early Wynn, who won the Cy Young when he was 38, didn't do my homework to know if that was an actual player or not.
Was an actual player. He was 39.
39, okay.
Ooh.
You know what's crazy? He played in the MLB for, I looked him up, he played for 23 years in the major leagues. But what's nuts is I always love this stuff where he started in the 50s and ended in the 80s. The world is so different from 1958 where it's like, turn off those Elvis records to like sexy little Prince being like, I love you baseball play. And you're like, the world has changed so much in this dude's career.
And the tie-in to Major League is he played for Cleveland.
There it is.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask.
Joe, to go back to what you were talking about with that time span, I saw like a meme or something the other day that was like the most depressing thing I've ever seen maybe in my life, where it said that the time difference between 1935 to 1980 is the same from 1980 to 2025.
Don't love that.
Don't like that at all.
At all. That is not okay.
No, but times are better now, guys. We have auto-tune.
It's like
Yay.
all my life right there, basically.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't handle that.
While they have that conversation, he mentions, I don't know who Early Wynn is, but you're turning me on. And then we cut to later, and now we see the two of them cuddled up in bed, seemingly post-fornication.
Yeah, the post-coital shot is kind of a lost art, I think. And like this is a big thing for comedies. Like think of like in Wayne's World when Rob Lowe is watching and the girl he's in bed with is like, no, leave this on. This show's funny. Like it's just like that was like in every comedy at this point.
Maybe the new gen just doesn't do as much post-fornication cuddling.
They're too busy with their headphones on and their switches, listen to their lofi.
Damn kids.
Does that sound right? Are any of those words right? I don't know. I know Switch is right about one.
I don't think people are on this witches.
They are. They have sex in the Mario Party right after.
They live stream
As
it
God
from the bed.
intended.
Honestly, nice flex. If you live in a hotel that has like a view of the ballpark and you get like you can watch the lights shut down, not bad.
Depends on the city and the ballpark, though.
It's like that's pretty cool. So they're admiring the lights going out in the ballpark, and he's talking about all like the perks of living at the hotel and how he likes having like the mint on his pillow and stuff like that. And then, which should have been projected, I didn't know necessarily this is where it's going, but it was a very obvious twist. But then now all of a sudden he goes, "Hey, how come you know so much about baseball?" And that's when we get the, "Well, you know your new manager? Happy? What about him? He's my father."
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
And you get the like him like have that like, you know, the shock thought of Happy like cocking a shotgun with the picture of her on the desk.
I will say, though, this is my favorite shot of the entire episode, is him cocking the shotgun. It makes me laugh so hard.
I agree. And so before all of that, with the cocking the shotgun, my brain went to, did Happy send her to him to get him out of his
slump?
rut? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like that's where my brain went, because it's like, because it could be saying it's his daughter, but it might not be his daughter, but she knows baseball, and could be his stepdaughter. You know, I wanted that only because I was so
If it was his
bored.
stepdaughter, she would have been in bed with Happy.
That's true.
She would have been stuck in the window if it was a stepdaughter.
Yeah. No, it's funny because it was the most obvious, like typical sitcom plot, but for whatever reason it escaped me. I knew there'd be some sort of a twist with her at some point. I just didn't think that was going to be it.
I thought she would be a reporter.
That or like married to someone else on the team or the other team or something like that.
Or she was actually the original Hardball mascot, trying to get her job back. I don't know.
I like that. Just an anti-Pied Piper scenario.
You may know my husband, the Pied Piper. It's the wife of the Pied Piper.
He's out of work. He's been drinking.
And now Jim Brewer's after him for the rest of the episode.
Hey, get away from my wife. No, not Goat Boy again.
So now we get to the next scene. We're back in the clubhouse following day. Lee, the PR girl's talking to Frank, and she's trying to explain to him that like winning the lottery, like you have to like look more humble right now. And like, can you at least stop charging money for your autograph? And again, hey, I got to make it while I can. What if I get injured? I got to live the rest of my life on $12 million. Like, come on. the network's like coming down on these millionaire players pretty hard.
Yeah, this is such a shot at baseball players.
And that's the thing. It's like, it's weird in that like you're making the players look like the bad guys. And you're supposed to root for the team. The difference of like a major league is like you love all the characters and like you're rooting for the team. You can't make a show about a baseball team and then make you not like most of the teammates for being shitty people.
Weird. It's almost like it didn't work, and this show only lasted for 2 months.
So, and then we're cutting back to Mike and Logan again. And this is Logan explaining to Mike that, you know, he had slept with Happy's daughter. And he's like, hey, just like keep it to yourself. Don't tell anybody. First person who walks over, hey, what's going on? Mike goes, Dave slept with Happy's daughter. It's like...
That's the first thing he said that I actually laughed at. Where you're like, okay, now I see like the dumb of his character is funny when it's not doing the gay panic stuff.
I like the reaction when the other player's like, oh, well, thank God it wasn't Frank. Why? He's like, because we can't afford to lose him. And then another guy walks by, and then that person is instantly told, you know, just the same. And, you know, Logan's getting worried about it. And then Happy walks by and looks at him, goes, Logan, my office. And then looks at him, goes, you look a little tired. You get enough sack time? And then Mike's just laughing hysterically.
He got sack time, all right.
That's a good joke. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. That's pretty good.
But who calls it sack time? I mean, come on.
In fairness, he meant like...
Hit the sack.
Hit the sack, yeah.
But in fairness, I meant hit the sack.
Right. Well, I think that's why it works. So now we cut to like Logan in like the manager's office or whatever, and he's there with Happy and the pitching coach, and he doesn't know yet. He doesn't know. So he's just trying to talk to him about like the game. He's like, he has a start coming up.
This writing here was like this tiny, tiny little aspect of writing from the words for the pitching coach was like, okay, this is someone who researched this to put here for baseball.
Yeah, he's telling him how like whatever batter it was, he's been swinging at the first pitch more and stuff like that.
Paul Molitor, who was the World Series MVP of '93 and won the World Series with the Blue Jays.
Okay, so they were using a lot of real players, and it's weird how like maybe this. I don't see. This is where I got confused with like contract stuff because I'm like, oh, they're the Pioneers because they probably don't have any licensing rights, but then real players are being mentioned. Right. But is that like because the Players Association is usually separate from the league stuff, right?
Correct.
So usually when you do like games, like there are games where there were I'm trying to think of a game where they had the teams but they couldn't use any names of players.
Oh, the NCAA.
You know what I'm thinking of? The old McFarlane figures that used to come out, the old sports ones, the early years ones. He didn't have the rights to the teams
team license
for the MLB.
Have the names.
So he would make the players, but they'd have like generic, like jerseys and stuff that weren't the exact team ones.
Chicago basketball man with Hitler mustache. We're like, okay, we know who that one is.
So like, but that's what I was thinking of. So it wasn't the games. It was like those old sport, the early McFarlanes. He didn't have the rights to the. Although,
what about the strike? There is no regulatory body right now for them to retaliate using the player's image.
Well, you know,
they're mucked up.
I'd hate to do this, but the not to get ahead thing. But I do know in a future episode, there are people seen in actual team jerseys and stuff. So I don't know. Weird line. I wonder why they went with a fake team.
Probably because it's easier.
Probably it's cheaper because
there's no risk.
Think about it. If you were the Cubs, you'd have to play at Wrigley Field. You couldn't make like a fake
you can still
Wrigley.
Shoot around it.
No, but you say they're the Bucks and they play at Chewing Field. You know, like it's just a cheap sitcom thing.
You look at the Cubs or whatever team. Look at this. If you look at this actual show, there's almost no baseball being played.
Yeah,
right.
At all. So like you have a few establishing shots and you're good usually, and then just a couple tight shots of people playing, and you can use almost any field when it's just like little shots of them like at batting practice and stuff. You know, I guess the other train of thought too would be, okay, let's say the show's a big hit. You can make so much money selling Pioneers gear.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if you had used a real team, now you don't get to make any money off that. So maybe that's part of it.
They also don't mention where this team exists, right? Like, they don't mention what city they're in.
No.
I don't think it's mentioned in this episode, no, because I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, we keep talking about Major League. Major League's all about the Cleveland Indians, which I guess now that name's available again. With all the success in the movies, they can't sell like Cleveland Indians jerseys of all the players' names and stuff. So like maybe like they're looking at that like, oh, here's an opportunity to make a lot of money if this is a hit.
No, it's a bummer. They're definitely going to remake Major League in our lifetime, and it's definitely going to be terrible.
Well, you never know.
No, I know.
I'll say this.
I can guarantee you.
You're not going to agree. And let me say this. I love the original when it comes to sports movies. But the Adam Sandler Longest Yard isn't bad.
No, it's not. No, it's pretty good.
It's nothing like the original Longest
It does
Yard.
not touch the original. Yeah, I mean, like you can't ever say anything that had Burt Reynolds in it is better without him in it. So
he's in the new one.
He's in it.
oh, well, he's just a guard. He plays Ed Lauder's role, right? He plays like the guard, I think. Yeah, but still, it's just not the same.
He's not the guy. No, he plays the older
coach,
quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now
Yeah.
he's the mentor.
Yeah, so he just flipped roles. But regardless, I'm just saying there is a world where I want to have faith. Sometimes if things are remade, there's a chance they can still be good.
Maybe Adam Sandler can remake it.
It doesn't feel like an Adam Sandler type of movie.
I don't think at this point he can be a baseball guy. Yeah, I think it's just like a little too. He's also pretty planted his flag in football and hockey movies. I don't know if.
Oh, in golf. He's now doing Happy Gilmore too.
He's actually an avid basketball player. Actually, of all the sports you mentioned, like that's the one he like legitimately plays the most. So as I continue with this too, I also liked not just the the advice about the swinging at the first pitch thing, but also they're telling him how there's been a tell lately on was his curveball. So he's showing his hand before he throws. So like things like this are like legit, good advice things. So like this
inside
scene,
baseball, as it were.
Yeah, this was like the most credible baseball scene of the show. But they're also using that whole thing with him showing his pitch as like a way to kind of slide in the does he know what's going on with his daughter, because he's like, you're not hiding your grip. You think you're getting away with something, but you're not. Everybody knows what those hands of yours have been doing. And if you can't keep a secret in this game, you're dead. So it's like, does he know? Is he still talking about my curveball? Or
I like at least the will they won't they of this does play funny. Now this scene though, when we find out that now Joe Rogan is killing a reporter outside, they could have just shot this where this actor was laying on his back with his legs in the air and he was holding real legs, but instead he's clearly holding fake dummy legs, and I can't fucking handle this scene because of it.
And the reporter is the car service driver from the Lip Reader episode of Seinfeld,
where Kramer tries to see how far they can go.
No, when some woman's cruel joke gave me some band tickets, my head was right up against the speaker.
Oh yes, yep.
Yeah, him, like metallic something, huh?
Yeah.
What? Huh? Yeah, him.
We had a lot of Seinfeld in this. 94, though, I guess everybody was bouncing around on all the sitcoms.
I was gonna say, and Seinfeld has had so many people on it, so it's like
true.
Yeah, I was gonna say
every available character actor that was in town probably at this point. Yeah. We come to find out that whole situation with Logan in the office, it's all broken up because of this, and it's Frank trying to like shake down a reporter for something he wrote about him, and yeah, you see Frank's holding the legs up and. You're right. There's not enough give. He's holding it, regardless of how much working out Joe Rogan does. There's no way you can hold a human body upside down like that and show zero resistance.
It's so poorly shot when you could have just done this so easy and made it look so much better.
And basically, we find out that this reporter just like wrote an article about how Frank is like the modern example of like greedy ball players in like today's world.
Yeah, a little on the nose.
Yeah, it was like. And everything we've learned about him so far is how completely accurate that is. And that's when Logan steps in and he's trying to explain to Frank, hey, listen, man, he's like basically defending the journalist and saying, people don't mind when you win the lottery, but nobody likes to see the same guy win it twice. And he goes, I won again? He's like, no, he's like, I'm saying you've been handed a lot in life. Maybe you should start thinking about handing something back. He's like, all right. And he drops the reporter, and Happy walks up to Logan now. And he's like, hey, that was a really good thing you just did there, and tells him to warm up. So like now he's like, all right, now I'm in good graces with the boss because he stepped in and showed some leadership.
Yeah, it's a good leadership moment right there.
Yeah.
I thought. True captain material.
He reminds me of when we talk about Major League. Oh man, now the character's name's is escaping me. But the catcher, the one who was like the fucking A, like
the catcher,
Jake Taylor.
Yeah, Jake
Tom
Taylor.
Barrage's
Yeah,
role.
yeah, 100% Jake Taylor.
Did you not see Major League either?
No, I saw it. It's been a long time, Jay. I don't rewatch movies. I watch them once and I'm done, bro. I don't. Why do I need to spend 2 hours watching another movie that I've already seen?
I don't think we have time to quiz you like we've done with all the other movies that we know you haven't seen. But I'm going to ask you again. Have you seen Major League?
Yes, I have seen that. Yes. I have seen it. The Wild Thing? Yeah, I've seen it. I'll tell you something. You know how I know I've seen it? Because in the movie, they take off the boss's clothes every time they win a game because they're going to be sold if they lose.
They did. That was Major League 2.
Well, I've seen that.
That was Major League 2, right? I'm almost positive.
I just thought that was Major League 1.
I thought that was Major League 1.
That was the first one because she took over the team and she wants them to lose every game so that she can sell the team. Sell it. And they were rallying to win, and they have the cutout of her, and they have to, like, every time they win, they rip the piece of clothing off. Pretty sure that's one.
Hey, Jay, have you seen it?
What?
Have you seen it, Jay?
No, I haven't seen it, no.
Oh.
That's what I thought.
He's only seen 2.
See, I brought the boom.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, I did.
No.
I did.
That'll date an episode like nothing. You want to listen to this episode back 6 months after we record it, and you go, what the fuck's he talking about with the boom thing?
Listen, well, it's fine, because they can go and they can do their homework.
We don't have enough time in this episode, but I will say, love the Rizzler. Love the Rizzler so much.
I do too. As we do the Riz face on an audio podcast.
I know. We're entertaining her.
Just we're all sitting here and people are like, why are they so quiet? Because we're... Oh, shit. I really brought the boom there.
When the reporter's on the ground now, we have Lee, the PR girl, run up, and she basically just makes it known, like, hey, you can report this, but if Frank gets suspended, his fans will hunt you down and kill you. So you should probably just forget about this. And then ask to wiggle your foot if you agree. And you see him wiggle his foot. Terrific.
I like that bit of character development from her. Because she knows she's ruthless.
As a PR girl, I guess that was smart in the moment for what her job is.
Yes.
I mean, he is the star of the team. Clearly, he's the one that's paid the most. He's the one that's hitting all these home runs. He's getting asses in the seats.
Yeah, the idea of any top player being suspended usually
is not right.
Garner like a bad fan reaction. But I feel like I've been a huge sports fan my whole life, right? And if whatever star player from any of our teams, if they were suspended for like assaulting someone, you'd go, oh, yeah, that sucks. But I mean, like, I get it.
It happens.
And now the fines, though, are like so high for that shit, too. Like, I feel like they try to make it happen less because of that.
It's tough. Sometimes I think the owners slip a check. And
I'm sure.
Cover those fines.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Here's your early Christmas bonus.
Yeah, right. Here's the 10 grand we fined you for punching this dude or whatever, yeah.
Now we're going to cut to the, like, later on, it's game night. And you see Logan talking to Jennifer, like, right before the game's about to start. This is Logan's, like, start night. He's saying, like, like, I think things are, like, working out between your dad and me. It's like, oh, I thought you guys weren't getting along. He's like, no, like, we're buddies now. Right before he's going to run out to the field, he's like, can I get a quick kiss for good luck? And she's like, all right, like, out here? It's like, yeah, don't worry about it. So they kiss, and then sure enough, it makes it on the Jumbotron, and you can see it right behind them, and everyone's cheering. No sooner does that happen, the phone rings in the bullpen, and the pitching coach picks up and is like, hey, Dave, happy I'd like to see you.
I thought this call was going to be like, okay, guess what, Dave? You've been pulled from pitching.
Yeah, I did too.
And honestly, I would have rathered, because if you have your pitcher and your catcher going out to the field, if your pitcher's going out to the mound, then you're in the game, and then they're in the office, and the national anthem's playing. What are we doing here? Nope.
We're delaying the game.
Yeah, pull him, start somebody else. If you want to put him in the rotation, have him as a closer later. Like, that would have been more realistic, because you're telling me that the bullpen, here's the bullpen, here's your dugout, and it makes no sense to me. Make it make sense.
Yeah, usually that's in the very back of the field.
So what you have to do in situations like this, though, is you have to, like, lower the knob on your baseball brain, and you have to, like, think just story-wise sitcom-wise, right? And I know it's tough, because when it's like, especially when it's like, listen, we bring you on because we know you love the game. When it's stuff like, and I love baseball too, but when it's like, when we watch stuff and it's like a theme of like a wrestling thing or something that like is super close to us, it's tough sometimes to like separate what you know from like, you know, just what's going to help the story. Because here I do like what this scene does to give the show some credit as far as like character development. So now we have Logan gets called into the clubhouse to go talk to Happy now, because Happy just saw him kiss his daughter on the Jumbotron. Now you have this pitcher who's already 1-5, on, you know, likely to get fired anyways, and he's now in ultra hot water because now his boss essentially knows that he's hooking up with his daughter. All right, so not a great situation for him. So Happy's giving him the whole speech in the clubhouse. You know, you're making this even harder for me. Like, no father wants to see their daughter like kissing anyone, let alone alongside with 50 other thousand people. Like, and now, like, I know I'm personally connected to you because if I have to fire you, I know that my daughter has interest in you. So now, like, there's like a personal connection between, you know, all this situation. You're not just a name.
This is where I think this was good casting, though, because he is an actual actor who can give this some real weight to it, where he's like, and now my daughter likes you. Like, you believe that. Like, he goes from you're a moron, right, into like, now this is tough because I care about my daughter, and you believe him for doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they cast Dan Florek well in this role. That's why he makes so much sense as a police captain, where like, he's the guy who has to like be tough, but these are all his kids, sort of.
But what I like about it is when he's saying this whole thing about like, and then when I'm gonna have to release you, when Logan's like, you're releasing me, he's like, well, that depends on how you pitch. And he goes, nothing else? And he says, nope. And he thanks him. So he is saying that, like, regardless of the thing with my daughter, ultimately, all I actually care as far as your position on this team is your performance. So he gives him that because we know he's 1-5. He does make the joke, you're going to have to pitch a no-hitter. But we know that he is putting the team first. He's not being personal about this. And I think it was good for the character to know that this manager isn't going to be a dickhead and just do things for personal vendetta, and, you know, his performance matters. So I thought story-wise, it put Happy in a good light.
When you put it like that, I can see it.
Yeah, baseball time, the game's about to start. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Because you do have in the middle of that whole scene, you do have like Mike walk in and go, hey, they're kind of waiting for us. Like, so they try to acknowledge it, but yeah, realistically in the game, there's no way around that.
I will say though, at least they give us the out of his daughter is an adult. She's professional. She travels. She does work. Yeah. If it was like, you know, his teenage high school daughter, right? Like, then it's like,
well, then we have evil, a whole other bucket.
We get
a whole
other.
Yeah.
We get the Roger Clemens story here.
And then, you know, we don't actually see the game itself.
Yeah, we see the aftermath when he walks into the bar.
Yeah.
Are we to believe he actually got a no-hitter, or he just won?
He didn't get a no-hitter.
He just won.
Yeah.
There's no way he got a no-hitter. I think that was more the tongue-in-cheek joke where he tells him that he better pitch a no-hitter.
Right.
Because you're on thin ice. But he walks into the bar, everyone's cheering for him, and just in case you don't, like, they're really clever. They have the one girl who works at the bar walk by and go, hey, like, look at you, Mr. 2-5. Like, so now we know he got the win.
Mr. 2-5.
They really button up a lot here, though, where you realize you've got 2 minutes left in the show, and he's like, oh, I won the game, and I took her to the airport. I'm going to see her again, and I think she's smart. Like, they just, like, push out so much exposition in this bar scene.
Quick, like, you see on television, Frank doing a press conference talking about how he's going to be donating money to the Frank Valente Strikeout Hunger Foundation. So they're trying to tie up that conversation as well. The whole, I've decided to donate some of my money, and in hopes that it will lighten the plight of less fortunate by buying them, beans and stuff.
This was him doing a fucking Charlie Sheen impression from the first movie. It was, I feel like, a banker in this. Like, he's doing that whole thing.
What's funny is I thought this was Joe Rogan's best delivery. Was that
it is his best delivery?
It is. He's pretending to struggle. Well, he probably is actually struggling to read, and doing that there. I concur.
It was very believable.
Yeah.
This also does feel more like his character in News Radio that really does work, right? Versus his character in this.
Yeah.
So Logan walks up to Mike at the bar, and this is a lot of the stuff that Joe, you just mentioned, where he mentions that he took Jennifer to the airport, and he wants to see her again. And Logan's telling Mike about how, Early Win won the Cy Young Award when he was 38. And then you just got Mike going, who the hell is Early Win? So, like, how was it? It was super old, though, right? When it happened, It was
1959.
That's when he won. Yeah, so it's beyond any of them, like, really watching the game,
right.
even as fans. All right.
Yeah, this is 30 years prior. Like, you can talk about baseball from 30 years ago.
Yeah, that would be the 90s.
Ugh.
We have been today.
Yeah.
Yes, again, them talking about something in 59 isn't much of than us talking about what happened in this era. Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about the baseball strike all episode, guys. We are old.
And I'm older than you guys. This is worse. My bones are just hurting right now.
We're all on the downslope. That's
If it makes you feel
thing.
better, our bones all hurt too.
Yeah. I just hear Sarah McLachlan playing somewhere.
We get one last cut to the game. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the Pied Pioneer. And the Pioneers dancing around again, and the PR girl's in the dugout now talking to the players. I guess that's all right. Like, we just needed to make the scene work, right? So now she can be in there and talk to the players.
I guess so, if you could pick anywhere to sit.
Sure, that's the best seat in the house,
she was sitting
right?
like above the dugout earlier, like the first time around, but now she's just like hanging out with the players mid-game. They're asking her, like, why do you keep sending this guy out here? Like, he sucks. People don't like him. She's like, wait, I added something. And that's when the music hits.
This is the terrible Smoke on the Water.
If it's not, it sounded identical to Smoke on the Water this time.
Identical.
So I don't even know if they changed the note. But again, like, Smoke on the Water, not to be confused with Wild Thing, which is when, like, he marches out the same exact.
Yeah.
I know he's the mascot, but he marches out exactly the way Wild Thing did.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And at least then we got X doing it.
Well, the X version is more chanty.
It's got that 80s. That was X kind of stepping out a little bit and getting a little bit of 80s production on those vocals, yeah.
So, hey, what's going on? And like, hey, it's Hardball. And Hardball, like, he storms up and then just beats the shit out of the Pied Pioneer.
He breaks the bat over his knee.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
And that was how they ended the episode. Honestly.
On a high note.
Yeah, strong end.
Yeah.
Strong ending.
Needed more.
I
of
mentioned
that.
earlier, too, when I looked up who that actor was who played Hardball. He's just like a writer. He's written a bunch of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch episodes and like American Dad episodes. I always love those people where it's like, it doesn't matter. We're going to put a head on you. Like, you're not an actor. You can just do this thing. Like, that's the kind of like one credit IMDb I'd want to have.
Yeah, I tried looking him up and finding a picture. There was like nothing on the internet. And I'm like, okay, everything was right. But I'm like, somebody's got to have something somewhere.
Right, to see what he looks like in any way. Yeah, I couldn't find any of that either. Yeah, I just found all of his writing credit stuff.
Yeah.
So that's it. That was Hardball. And wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that.
That was 22 minutes of my life that took 3 hours to take notes for that I'll never get back.
Yeah.
I don't have too much else to say about the show, so we'll get into the green lights in a bit. This is the most I think I've wanted to like a show going into it. I'm really interested. Like the thing I saw Joe Rogan say about it years later, like on a recent podcast about the network getting involved with a lot of the scripts, really does make me super curious as to like what the early cuts of those scripts were like. Because like we said, there are a lot of really good names attached to the show and the writing. So like, I don't know.
I'd like to think that the network messed with this because the credits of these writers they have been making us laugh our entire lives. Right? Like some of the greatest Simpsons episodes are from these guys. And it's not that there's a bad cast in this either. So it's got to be that somebody had a hand in this. I mean, one thing to say too, it was so ubiquitous at this time to have. There was Abe Knuckleball Schwartz, right? Like we had a wrestler who was like the wrestler for the baseball strike. Like this was such big news, and I feel like nowadays, if baseball went on strike, people would just be like, "Yeah, baseball's still on strike." Like it's such a different world 30 years later.
Yeah,
it was a huge deal when it happened in '94. My mind is a little curious if they had got this show out a year earlier, how that might have changed things, how that might have changed the nonstop mentions of how much money baseball players make in the show, and or just in general when everyone's in love with baseball content's coming out. Like maybe like if this show comes out a little sooner, does that help?
I still feel that the writing is a mixed bag because you have some moments where they are aware of the sport and they're able to have a conversation around the sport. But then you have moments where like, we only get one small glimpse of the GM and one small glimpse of the owner. If you're going to have this owner who wants this team to win, wouldn't you show them in the box dancing after a big win? Or, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure because again, this is the pilot episode, this is going to be revisited unless they're going to change it up. Who knows? But I feel to close from beginning to end wouldn't have mattered based on the time frame because we have no follow up to the beginning.
I think your point about the owner is spot on, right? Like we see her in the very first scene of this and she's like, I've got a dog. I'm this like clearly big personality. I'm making all these sexual remarks to this guy and I want you guys to win or I'm not going to pay you anymore. And then we don't see her again
Right.
the entire episode. Like you gave her 1 second with the introduction of Happy and then she's gone.
And they're building a statue for her dog. Ballsy,
Yes.
by the way. I laughed at that.
Listen, I would too.
So with all this in mind, we might as well get into the green light or cancel. I want to remind everybody that we are missing 2 people. There will be a graphic that will have their votes included with it, and that'll be on all our social media. So again, S1E1pod.com will have all the links to that stuff. But to get into it, we'll go with our guest first. Sarah, would you like to go? Green light or cancel, Hardball.
Oh, this is a cancel over and over again. From the writing to the laugh track to the acting, you had solid actors here that you could have had better writing. And again, as you pointed out, that Joe Rogan had a conversation about the network going into it. But again, it could be one of those that Fox had making words happen, Sarah. Here we go. Had other plans and wanted to take over the MLB. So that's why, yeah.
Ulterior motives?
Thank you. Words are great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Good looking. But yeah, I think that they butchered this. Good concept. You could have had a baseball show, but you should have done it off like Kids or something. Little League, Sandlot, Rookie of the Year. This is the time when little kids were very invested in baseball. Cancel.
Gordo.
I'm going to greenlight this. See, I liked this show. I mean, it was a knockoff Major League, but I think that there is enough bones there. I have canceled a lot worse, and I've greenlit a lot worse. This is not dog shit, right? Like, this is not dog shit. This could be a lot worse. I think that the cast itself, it's got good bones. It's got a good story, like overarching story, like they're a bad team that they're going to have to win. They have funny components to them. I think it can work for episode 2. I would be harsher on episode 2 than I am on episode 1, but I think that you're going to get all these different stories and all these different offshoots. So I don't think each episode is going to be formulaic. So that's why I'm going to pass it. I liked it. Green light.
Joe.
I would like to say, too, one of the writers here was one of the main writers on Homeboys from Outer Space, so I can't even be mad at you for greenlighting it, because, like, that just tracks so fucking hard for you.
Great show.
My thoughts on this is a weird way around the subject, but hear me out, right? So there's this band, the Dirty Projectors, and they have this album where the singer found a cassette tape copy of Black Flag's Damaged from when he was a kid with no tape in it. And he set out trying to make the entire album recorded from his memory, from these songs he hadn't heard in like 20 years, and like wouldn't listen to them, was just trying to go through and do it. And that album is fucking weird and doesn't really work. And sometimes you're like, I can kind of see what you're going for there. I feel like the writers for this found an empty VHS tape of Major League. They just found the case and they were like, let's try to recreate what worked for this and see if it lands. And sometimes you go like, oh, okay, I can see what you did there. And sometimes it's wildly fucking wrong. I don't think it's surprising this didn't last very long. I don't think it's surprising this didn't satiate the itch people had for missing baseball. I also think it's probably a losing effort to try to say people love baseball and it's on strike. Why not give them a baseball sitcom? I don't think that's the same thing. A couple of jokes here and there landed. I do like the cast in this, but this is a huge cancel.
So I don't believe I'm going to say this. I'm also greenlighting it. However, unlike Gordo, I will say this. I do think it's dog shit. Here's what gets me sometimes. I'm looking back. It's like at this time, if I was watching, or even like now, it's the gimmick that gets me. Like, I like the gimmick of the show. Even though the show could and should be so much better, just the overall gimmick hooks me in to want to watch it. Because I'm like, ooh, a baseball show. It's like, this is fun. So it wasn't so bad that I couldn't watch it. So my bar, admittedly, is a little low. But I'm like, but I enjoyed it enough that I was like, I could see myself going on YouTube and watching the rest of the season, like, very easily. So I didn't hate it. And for me, for a show like this, for me to cancel, I think I need to hate it. And I didn't. There was just enough there for me. And I think, like, when we look at other shows sometimes, family sitcoms, like a King of Queens type of show, and Everyone Loves Raymond, all those, like, it's so much easier to be harder on them because there's 8 billion of them. Right? So, you know, what's going to weed out the good from the bad is I can watch 50 other shows exactly like this one. You need to be special. I don't have 50 other baseball shows I can watch. And like, I like the subject matter enough that like, there's enough here that I can justify to myself watching it, even though admittedly the show should be so much better. And it just isn't. But it's enough for me to give it the green light. With that in mind, we're leaving on a tie. We have 2 votes to go from 2 missing people.
This will be intriguing to see how this one plays out.
Don't know how it's going to land. I'm pretty sure they're both going to cancel it as well, but I can't say officially. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. Sarah, before I completely close out, give yourself some more plugs.
ipradio.com, Daddy-O Sports, Cars on Instagram, Generation Mixtape, or gmtpod.com. You can find me all over MaydayMediaNetwork.com. I'm kind of all over the internet. So wherever I'll also be commenting on these guys. So you've seen me. I'm around.
And thanks for being here, Sarah.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you guys.
Yeah, before I get into my official closeout, like a genuinely thank you for joining us. It was fun to have you on.
This was great. I'm big fans of you guys. I've been listening. You guys did the Smart Guy episode. And also our, Happy was the gym teacher in Smart Guy, for anyone who wants to also go back to the episode that I actually chose for you guys to cover when I was my reps. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys. You're amazing. Keep at it.
So to close out, thank you. I'll do a more condensed version than I normally do. Thanks for everyone who listens. Follow us on all our socials and hit us up. That's about it. We'll have another show for you next week, so tune in then. Thank you guys for listening. Catch you next week. Goodbye.
I think we got the best disconnected reporter legs.